Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ANZCAR Truck Series presented by FGM eCast. I'm host Stuart Brown, joined tonight by none other than the Carl Withy, not running tonight, deciding to jump in the commentary box with me and give me a hand as I continue my rapid steep climb up the learning pole, shall we say, about all things truck and ANZCAR. Welcome to the broadcast, Carl.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It's a pleasure to be here. A bit different than out on the track tonight, just up here in the box, but absolutely glad to be up here. I'm sort of humming and erring about my campaign this season, but definitely happy to help up here in the broadcast booth through the season if you need me.
And you're looking to do a little bit more of the development series this year?
Absolutely, yes. I'm looking at running a little bit more of the ANZCAR series this year. It's not been a bad start to the truck season for me, but again, ANZCAR series has been going well as well. So lots of good little areas to run in, but sometimes Monday nights can be a little bit tricky.
Well, as always, a pleasure to have you on board with your knowledge of everything that goes on here, particularly trucks, and you were telling me just in the pre-game here that the track could be a little tricky tonight.
Yeah, absolutely sure. It's a very different track to what we had last time at Miami, Homestead, Miami. This track is a lot faster. You can almost go full flat around this circuit. There's no lifting, although you will struggle going through turns 1 and 2 sometimes. When you go into the first corner, you can have real trouble because it does get a little bit bumpy. You'll also see a few cars cutting the tri-oval section as well, trying to get that optimum pace tonight. The other thing about this track that catches people out is just on the sort of mid-corner of turns 3 and 4. You do get a little bit loose around there with the back of the truck, so it's very easy to lose the car when you're going around there, especially when you're following at high speeds.
So we had 100 laps last week, and nothing to speak of at all, actually. A couple of close calls, some single car stuff, but nothing too diabolical at all, no caution periods, and I'm expecting, based on what you've just said, that we won't be seeing that tonight. We're unlikely to see that tonight anyhow.
It would be very strange to see this race go completely green, I think, just because it is such a tricky track. It's so easy just to lose the car. Quite a few of the experienced drivers were pushing it in practice a little bit, just trying to get the pace up there, and we're losing the rear end a little bit just as that grip level just drops slightly. And that's one of the things here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, is it is a very fast track, but it is one of those tracks you just have to lift very slightly when you're in a pack with, because otherwise the lack of downforce, the excess of speed, it will just lift the back off a little bit, and all of a sudden the back will go round.
Yeah, so we're going to have to keep an eye out for that, and it means not so much for the drivers, but certainly for us, some excitement, and things will get mixed up in the pack as we get through the race here. We're doing 100 laps, and of course we are at Las Vegas, so keep an eye out in the stands for Mike Tyson and his Tiger, but looking forward to this one. I haven't been to Las Vegas. I think we did broadcast from here last year, perhaps, but it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. And you've got a rundown for us there of the current championship standings after last week.
Yes, I do, sure. So currently leading the championship is Stephen Williams after his great victory last time out. Danny G sits in second place in the championship, just 5 points behind the leader. Next up, we have Riley Curtis, who's 6 points behind in third, with Bradley Allison in fourth. Fifth is Norman Clark, just 9 points behind the leader, and then 6 and 6. I think I'm going to drop down those positions. Seventh is Brody Masters with Ken Donnelly in eighth. Well, joint eighth with Aidan Schultz, who has switched teams recently. Aidan Schultz jumping to A1 Sim Sports now. Next up, we have Daniel Stevens with a couple of cars just close to him with Troy Davidson, Chris Pennell, and Aaron Dillon. So it's still very close to at the top. There's obviously with only 2 races to in, we've not really gained that many points, but it is definitely a close battle. But Stephen Williams, absolute blinder last week. He managed to gain 13 positions, jumping up the championship standings.
Yeah, and he dominated that race last week as well. The close finish, probably a little bit misleading if I was to be truthful. He basically ran away with it and managed fuel back to the pack which meant we ended up with a reasonably close finish, but I think a result that wasn't really in any doubt once he managed to move his way to the front of the field.
Right, once you break away, tyres were a huge thing last time out. Once you started pushing too hard on those fronts, you really did start losing out quite quickly. That was one of the biggest problems I had, was just getting the tyres to switch on for me. Actually, I was having sort of the opposite issue, but it gave me some good speed towards the end of the race, the end of the stints. Everybody else, though, was having a bit of trouble just getting the tyres to last through the stint, and we're really struggling on the right front. Tyres can be a bit of an issue here at Las Vegas as well. Generally, you'll find the front will start to go with the rears. You tend to have both sets of tyres starting to go quite quickly. During practice, I had a bit of a run-in practice session earlier on, and I was finding my left rear was actually starting to go off quite quickly, and that's just because of the way the car slides around the corners sometimes. If your car gets a little bit loose here, your tyres will drop off quite quickly. And one of the other things you get quite a lot here at Las Vegas are marbles, and you see them up towards the edge of the track surface.
So there's a couple of things there to watch out for as we get through the race. Banking here a lot steeper than last week as well, so that'll contribute to exactly what you were just talking about. So looking forward to getting started. We've got 3 minutes left here in practice, and we will then head into solo qualifying for this one. 2 laps for each driver, 2 complete laps for each driver to get their fastest time. And I don't think we've seen a pole sitter race winner yet this season. Obviously, again, only 2 rounds in, but pretty sure we haven't seen a pole sitter race winner yet. So let's see what comes of tonight. And as you mentioned, there's a couple of team changes. Aiden Schultz has had a couple of strong performances as well, so an interesting change for him to jump teams. I'm sure there's reasons behind that. We might find that out at some stage during the week before next week. That just came out just before we went to air this evening on ANZCAR's Facebook page. So if you are watching out there and you're not, jump on, follow the page. It's the best place for you to get the information on across all of the ANZCAR series. So the ARCA series, which is a development series, the truck series, which is the feeder into the Cup. So jump on, give them a follow if you are interested.
Yeah, it's always quite useful because there's always bits going on the Facebook page, lots of information coming out. Another change this week is Mick Taylor, who's joined with the SRM Australia team. He's going to be racing here tonight by the looks of things in the Toyota Tundra. So Mick Taylor getting a drive for the SRM team, so that's good to see as well. People jumping into some new teams and things like that. If you are a driver as well, just let us know on Facebook if you have changed, because then we can set everything up and let everybody know the details too.
And it's our biggest field tonight. There was a little bit of disappointment is probably the kindest word to put on it, as I just saw Luke Trahare's name flash on the screen. He missed out last week because the server filled up too quick. Or I say too quick, I mean once they're full, they're full. So the server extended to 43 grid places this evening, which seems to be about right. We've got 40 trucks running out there tonight, so it's going to be a good race. So stick around, plenty of action still to come as we make our way into qualifying. Do have to do a quick shout out. AJ Insurance Services, just there, come up on your screen, have joined us as a channel partner as well, so welcome to them. Of course, Joe Daly involved in a number of different areas of the sim racing world, but also as an insurance broker. So if you are looking for some insurance or some advice, jump on AJ Insurance Services page. Joe's around pretty much all the time. I see him everywhere, so jump on and have a chat with Joe, and he'll be able to help you out and look after you for business insurance or otherwise. So AJ Insurance Services, welcome to the team. We certainly enjoy having you on our broadcast as a channel partner.
Yeah, absolutely. A very useful thing to have, of course. One of the best things about sim racing, of course, is you don't have to worry about insurance for these cars. So when you're racing them on track, it's not as expensive to repair these ones.
No, not quite. But I can tell you from experience, it's almost as expensive to get into as building a race car. So it doesn't have to be, but it can certainly be a very, very expensive place to play.
That's it. And a lot of the sim gear, a lot of people with that, it's well worth looking into things to keep that safe, because it does creep up in price quite quickly.
Absolutely. So About to jump out on track now, so we're looking for purple is what you want to see. Plenty of purple, and we'll try and move around with drivers as best we can with a huge field of 40 cars. As you could expect, it's a little difficult to keep up with all of them at the same time, but Carl and I will do our best to bring you the quickest laps. I'm just trying to work out who it is who is out first. I believe it's Danny G, so we're going to jump on board with him now, as he will be the first driver to set a fast lap. And let's jump on with him and see how he gets on. A good time here from practice, around about 30 seconds is the flying lap time. That won't be the race pace, but let's see how we get going.
Yeah, Danny G's definitely one to look out for tonight. He wants to try and get that sort of second place, that top place in the championship secured, of course, as well. He wants to try and keep that area locked in for himself. He's had a good couple of seasons, last season being an absolute standout for himself, but he's shown some really good pace this year. Maybe not caught some luck in some of the races. Last weekend springs to mind, he got a bit of damage early on, and that cost him during the overall pace. But the big thing for this track is sometimes the second lap can be the slightly quicker lap, but you can burn your tyres off on that first lap, so you've got to be a bit careful with that aspect of the car.
Nicholas Walsh actually goes fastest, 31.42, with Danny G putting in a 31.46. So slightly slower than I was anticipating, and practice times, but we are dropping down now. Josh Mickelmore 31.1, Kai Sloggett 31.19, so edging closer to that with that first lap. We do have plenty still in the pits, plenty still to come to do their 2 laps. On solo here, there's no need to rush out early. Obviously with a 5-minute qualifying time, plenty of time to get out there and get a lap set, as Danny G does a 31.05, currently provisionally on pole. He has completed his lap set.
Yeah, a very good lap from Danny G there. We saw a couple of quicker laps in practice, but of course you do have some cars helping you with tow and stuff like that in that respect. You see a lot of the cars dropping down to the apron to try and cut the track off as short as possible as well, to try and get the best possible run across the line. The one thing you've got to be careful is that it can unsettle the car a little bit. You don't want to go too low and clip the grass, because that can totally destroy your qualifying session. You don't want to get an instant point for that one.
So just on board now with Ruben Phelps, currently sitting in 10th, about to complete his second flying lap. As it stands, Danny G, Daniel Stevens, Josh Mickelmore, our top 3, all running in the extremely low 31s, 05, 06 and 07, with Chris Purnell in 4th with an 08. As Daniel Stevens just punches himself up into that group with a 31.06. Michael Skurlock drops in with a 31.05 in another one of the Crank Esports cars.
It's so very close up there at the top.
Yeah, late runners doing a great job here. We've got Kay Donnelly, one of the Sim boys. He is out on his flying lap, trying to look to improve his 31.2 first flying lap. Just stay on board with him. Ryan Jones on a flyer as well.
Of course, sometimes it can pay off coming out a little bit later, because you sometimes get a qualifying cloud come over. Of course, with dynamic weather effects in iRacing, these can make things a little bit more interesting for later runs. Sometimes they can affect you negatively though too.
It's Ryan Jones does a 31.07 there, just slightly slower than Josh Mickelmore, who also did a 31.07, so they're split by a hair. I've got Aaron Dillon still out there in the Tundra, another one of the Sim Boys team. Pretty much everyone else has run if they're going to. Steve Williams just commencing his laps. We'll jump on with him, obviously, once we finish here. And that's not, unfortunately, improving things for Aaron Dillon. So, jump on with last week's race winner. Let's see where we head.
An absolute great lap there from Paul Jackson, jumping up to 3rd place with a 31.055. Really nice job from him getting up there in the top group of cars.
Absolutely, there's been a fair shuffle from there, as you'd expect. Everyone very, very close together in lap times here, meaning that a few hundredths pushes you from the top of the tree down to outside the top 10.
All it takes is the slightest mistake.
May have left his run too late. And no, timed it perfectly to get across the line right there and push himself up to 13th. So is the end of the qualifying for tonight's race. So let's get the grid up on the screen. It's a massive field, so we're going to have to take our time to get you through it. And run through, if you can, Carl, through the list here.
Absolutely. So on the front row of the grid, we have Danny G with Michael Skurlock. On row 2, we have Paul Jackson with Daniel Stevens. Row 3 is Josh Micklemore with Ryan Jones. Row 4 is Matthew Raymond with Chris Purnell. Row 5, Gary Wellman with Kate Donnell. Row 6, Ruben Phelps with Aaron Dillon. On to row 7 is Stephen Williams and Ben Vickers. Row 8 is Luke Trahir and Scott Griffith. Row 9 is Kai Sloggett with Brody Masters. Row 10 is Reese May with Nigel Patton. On to row 11 is Tony Gallardi with Scott Butler, Christopher Finlay and Cam Jones on row 12. Row 13 is Tristan Koch with Aidan Schultz. 14 is Dwayne Priest with Nicholas Walsh. Then we come to Jason Nicholas and Bill Hickey on row 15 with Nathan Rolich and Riley Curtis, Philip Howe, Todd Maxfield, Jake Maloney, and then we've got the cars that didn't qualify. So myself, obviously, Steve Hoppett, Iger Burrick, Mick Taylor and Jacob Socha. So we'll see if they take the start, of course. They didn't set the qualifying time, so they don't need, if they don't want to take the start there, they can stay out there. But I think most of them are just going to be wanting to start towards the back tonight rather than up there in the field, just because sometimes starting towards the back can be a slight advantage on a track like this where you're looking at possibly having a couple of incidents. It's always best to keep your way out, keep out of the way of everybody.
And it looks like they are taking the grid as well, so we'll definitely have a look at their progress throughout the evening. It can be a good strategy as we're in cockpit view here with Danny G, just having a look out of the pole position car, and you can see there the pace truck just in front of him. And I must admit, I can't imagine what it would actually be like to sit in a stadium effectively where there's over 100,000 people watching a car race. It would be an unbelievable sight. So probably not something that I will ever get to do, but certainly something that boggles the mind a little bit when you look at the NASCAR fields support and what they get up to over there in the States.
Yeah, you've got to say places like Indianapolis, of course, where it is just such a huge track where it's just enclosed by the fans completely. It must be something special driving on a track like that. But it is just such an intimidating thing, seeing those big stadiums all around you in such an enclosed cockpit as well, on such a small sort of enclosed track with so many cars around you.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I can hardly imagine what it would be like to see that. So, certainly different to what we have a look at when we get to, say, a place like Bathurst or something similar. So, anyhow, the mind can speculate. It certainly is a place to go and visit if you do head to the States at some stage in the next couple of years when things return to normal. So, let's see what happens here. The the Crank Esports guys as well have got Michael Skurlock on the front row here. Of course, the draft from teams here tonight going to be something important. So we'll see who gets where. Mitch Motorsport, of course, with a couple of cars towards the front. So no doubt you'll have Danny G and Josh Micklemore wanting to work together as we get this one underway.
Good start there from Danny G. He's just managed to lead his line nicely down on the bottom. He's going to keep that groove in. You can run too wide here, but it is a little bit tricky. You can struggle a little bit towards the lower line, having to keep very low. But they're all looking like they're managing it so far. That can be very tricky. You see Danny G already going up towards that high line because he wants to be able to take the easiest way into the corner, not have to take the shortest entry there. He can just sweep in there nicely, and he'll be able to pick up a bit of a lead now and start to pull away from those guys behind him.
And already doing so effectively as the field will start to try and shuffle and sort itself out. Kate Donnelly jostling around with Luke Trahir a little bit further back in the field. We'll just keep an eye. It looks like everyone's got through the start safely, which is what we want to see. We don't want to have a huge one this early on. You can see there plenty down on the apron. Lots going on down in the back of the field there. We'll just jump back and have a look at what is happening back down here. We do have our first caution, so I didn't quite pick up what that was that caused that. Just go back and see if we can find it.
a little bit of a look. And there was a big moment between, I think. I'm just trying to look to see who it was actually.
Oh yeah, so it was
turned in the corner.
It was the 94 of Scott Butler just getting turned around down on the apron there. Riley Curtis, I think, may have been involved with that. It looks like he's got a little bit of damage to the Tundra there. But everyone back out and going again. So just trying to take that back a little bit again and just have a look at that here. You can see he's just had a big slide and just picked up the 49. Igor Burkic's just picked him up. Sorry, my apologies, that was a 66.
Yeah, just a big moment there. And that's what I was saying, through that sort of first couple of corners, there is a couple of bumps there as you go through there, and it's very easy to lose the rear end. It's very easy to lose this car, especially in traffic, because you don't have a huge amount of downforce in these cars. The little downforce you have all of a sudden gets taken away from you as if the hand of God has come down and picked it away from you, and the car will just lift off a little bit more unexpectedly. The same can happen when somebody gets too close behind you, as the rear starts to lift off as well. So very tricky sometimes on these kind of tracks.
Looks like nobody really being too affected by that, which is good. Jake Maloney's just jumped into pit lane as we speak, I believe. No, it just looks, yeah, he's jumped into pit lane, so only one doing anything pit related during this early caution period. So Danny G still in the lead of this one. Michael Skurlock second. We've got Paul Jackson in third and Josh Mickelmore fourth. Daniel Stevens fifth. Jones in sixth. Raymond seventh. Purnell eighth. Gary Wellman ninth. And rounding out the top 10 at the moment is Ruben Phelps.
Yeah, Ruben Phelps having a good start to his career in the ANZCAR series. Been putting his name up there quite a lot in the top 10. And we've been setting some good times. So definitely one to watch for the future.
Looks like he is with the Activity Hub Bali team there, who have a few drivers in the field actually.
They've been having a very strong start to the season. Activity Hub Bali, a lot of cars in the series. And they've been having some relatively good results. So they've been a bit unlucky at some stages, but they have been working well with each other. And you've got to say, it's only a matter of time before those guys start to really pick up positions. With a team like that, there's so many different drivers in there. It can really help. A bit like Crank Esport, of course, having just their experienced drivers in there, helping people like Luke Trujillo just get up. He's been running in the series for a while now, but he's, of course, been under the mentorship of Chris Purnell, and it's really been helping him in that respect. But that team is definitely one to watch for this year, as well as your more established teams like Mitch Motorsport, who are always very strong, of course.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was talking to Chris Purnell actually just yesterday, and I said to him that my money is on Luke Trujillo to take a race win at some stage this season. He was a little bit unlucky at the Daytona circuit run, as opposed to running on the oval track. And I think he's definitely one to watch throughout this year, and we'll see what he can do. Not to put any pressure on him at all, but I think that he's probably one to watch.
Yeah, I won't say anything about the Daytona oval race with Luke, because, of course, towards the end we had a little bit of contact, unfortunately. But yeah, he's definitely one to watch for. Really, really fast, very, very quick out there, and also a very clean racer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely building to be a good season, because a couple of these drivers also run in the Cup series as well. So they all spend plenty of time getting around as quickly as they can and getting themselves ready for these race meetings.
Yeah, and a few drivers are in the ARCA Development Series as well, that runs on the Tuesday nights for everybody to come in and get a bit of experience under their belts. It's a good way if you're looking at starting to go oval racing and want to get a bit of an idea of really how it works and how you go with it, because that can be a really good series to start off in and get your boots in the door really, and just get used to this style of racing if you are coming from road racing experience, rather than jumping in at the deep end here in the trucks. The ARCA series can be a little bit more forgiving, but it is still very hard racing, as the pace cars lights have come off, so that'll be coming in very shortly, and we'll be going back to green.
So of course, when that pulls in, we will be off and running again. Did have one car in. Scott Butler, he is back on the tail end of the field here. So we're about to go running, just jumping around a little bit there, apologies for that. So Scott Butler back on the tail end of the field. He did make up his after his pit stop, so he has rejoined the field. So we're all bunched up again. Pace truck peels off into pit lane, and we get set to go green racing again, and we're off. Danny G, another cracking start there. Michael Skurlock just not quite getting away quite as quickly, and he's got Paul Jackson right behind him. Josh Micklemore down on the low side as well. Sorry, I got that back to front. Paul Jackson down on the low side with Micklemore just up on the higher line there. So as the cars try to start to sort themselves out again, try and get some clean air.
Yeah, as they all start to try and find some places, try and find some positions, and of course try and get late into this race now. And that's the hard thing now, is just getting steadily into this race. And you know, that's the hard thing when you're down at the back sometimes, because you are chopping and changing. The racing does get very extreme back there, but up the front, Danny G just having a beautiful start. Skurlock's starting to catch up to him now as there's a little bit of a draft coming to him. Oh, just behind him, you just see there, Paul Jackson just having a big moment coming off turn number 2. Managed to save the car. Brilliant save there by Paul Jackson, but that's going to cost him a lot of positions.
Yeah, just managing to keep it off the wall, which is a great thing, because I think it would have caused probably close to the big one. I don't want that to happen. So, but Skurlock right up on the back again of Danny G, just managing, as you say, to use that draft to his advantage. Mitch Motorsport guys, Josh Micklemore right behind him as well. So it's going to be close up the front.
Yeah, very close. Ryan Jones just getting a little bit squirrely through the corner.
A bit further back down the field, plenty of people using the wall to help themselves stay on the track.
It's a valid way around if you can get it working. Of course, one of the big problems is when you do go into the wall, you will cause yourself a bit of damage. Just jump back, and I was looking at Kai Sloggett down there in about 20th position, 19th position, and he's got a big bit of damage on his nose now, and that's going to affect the aero. But up the front, Michael Skurlock making the move for the lead. He's going round the outside of Danny G as they come off of turn number 2. Looks like he's got the speed off that corner, taking that slightly higher line to pay it off for Skurlock. He's managed to take the lead from Danny G.
Be working hard here as well as Micklemore to try and get him behind. He's done that there, so he's going to be able to work with his teammates. So maybe a little bit of strategy there as well. You can see Chris Purnell in the Crank Esports car trying to make his way through as well. He'd be loving to work with Michael Skurlock up the front and push themselves away, but not quite able to get there. Ryan Jones, the meat in the sandwich at the moment between Mitch Motorsport and the Crank Esports guys as well. So team lines being drawn up the front.
Yeah, they're definitely going to want to try and get a little bit together. It's not a huge advantage from the draft here, but it does help a little bit. And it's not like a Daytona situation where you're going to be running nose to tail, but when you can get within about a quarter to half a second of the person in front of you, you do get an enormous pickup of speed. The only problem is if you get too much speed coming into the corner, you've got to lift off more, and that can sometimes cause you problems in the corner if you don't lift off enough. As you can see, just getting down towards the bottom there, Chris Purnell just making a look on Josh Micklemore at the moment. He's really trying to pressure Josh Micklemore into making a mistake as they come into the section, but Ryan Jones has got that high line, seems to have it pretty well stuck there. He's getting a good pull from Danny G at the moment. He might be able to slot in front of Josh Micklemore.
On the nose of Josh Micklemore here, fabulous jump out to the outside here. You can see him just trying to keep on the back there, make sure that no one squeezes themselves inside, and we've got a yellow flag here, so we are going back under caution. Let's jump back and have a look at the incident.
Now comes the investigation part of working out what's happened with that one.
Interesting enough, because it's taking us back to not the right car. So let's have a look if we can.
It was a 66 of Philip Howe there.
Yeah.
So the 66 of Philip Howe just going into the back of. I'm trying to have a look to see who's in front of him. The number 90.
Yeah, there it is there. So just there, and that also impacted Nicholas Walsh as well, who was a bit of an innocent bystander in that one, just becoming collateral damage, and he has jumped out of that car into pit lane.
Yeah, big shame there. And unfortunately, in a situation like that, there's not much you can do. Sometimes you're a bit of a passenger, and you can't really do much to avoid an incident like that.
So as we now see a train of cars jumping into pit lane. In fact, there's a big dent in the back of Michael Skurlock's car there as well. Just wondering when...
Skurlock has, he's... Sorry to interrupt you there. Skurlock has actually come in a bit too late there. And he's caused a big incident. He sort of... It looks like he was going to stay out, and he's decided a bit late to come in, and then braked across the front of Danny G, and that's caused a ripple effect, gone back into Ryan Jones. So that is Skurlock, Danny G, and Ryan Jones all with damage there. Skurlock is... he's not going to be popular with that move.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if I could actually bring it up on the screen here, so I'm just stuck back to that. But it's not gone back far enough for us to actually see it, so we'll head back live and jump back out on track, as Kate Donnelly, Steve Williams have decided not at this stage to pit.
So Danny G and Ryan Jones are both in the pit lane still with quite a lot of damage. Yeah, Michael Skurlock just saying across the radio he's incredibly sorry about that. A bit of a dumb move by him. He's very sorry about that one, but that has definitely cost a lot of the fast cars a lot of positions there.
Yeah, and as you see there, we just have a look at Mitch Motorsport, the nose of that car looking very second-hand, and the back left-hand corner as well, where the concertina effect has taken its toll on the back corner of the Mitch Motorsport 24 car of Danny G.
Yeah, that's a lot of fast cars early in this race to have damage. That could really affect this race. Interestingly, Kai Donnelly stayed out there. We've got 3 cars that stayed out there: Stephen Williams, Kai Donnelly, and Philip Howe. So those 3 stayed out on track. They've been out there for 15 laps now, 16 laps. So they've got their tyres will be a little bit on the worn side. But of course, it depends how this race goes. The next person down is Chris Purnell with Josh Micklemore. So those guys are going to want to try and clear these cars quite quickly. But they have 3 cars in front of them that will be going a little bit slower than they'll want to go.
Yeah, of course, Chris Purnell, the first of the cars that has pitted, so effectively, our adjusted race order will see him in the lead at some stage, but we'll have to wait and see. Josh Micklemore obviously hot on his heels as well once this race does restart.
Yes, they're going to be trying their best. The cars were getting around about 60 laps of fuel for the race, so nobody's going to make it to the end of this one. So they're all going to have to pit one more time at least. That's the big thing for that part. You can sometimes work out you can work back from the race and sort of try and work it so you've got a bit of an easier stop. But stopping there was probably the best option in all honesty. 15 laps is a big amount to make a difference on tyre wear, and it can mean that if this race goes green for longer, it can really help you out later on.
And Michael Skurlock here has just entered pit lane. I don't know if that is because he got a drive through.
That would be for damage repair, I'd say, because you can't serve a penalty under the caution, so he'll be coming in to get some repairs done maybe, or he might be parking the car up, depending on how he feels. Or just topping a little bit of fuel up, things like that. So I'd say that would just be a little top up of something.
Has come back out of the pits, so I should say maybe just doing a top up there just to make sure that he is as full as he can be. Just see him there in the background joining on the back of the field. So he is still on the lead lap.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is keeping on the lead lap is the tricky thing. You'll see drivers coming in and out of the pit lane in these situations sometimes to get repairs done, just so they can keep on the lead lap and make sure they don't drop a lap down from the rest of the field, because once you drop a lap down it can be a bit hard to get back on there, especially with damage. But the pace car will be coming in, and we're going back to green here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Form up for the restart, waiting for it to go, and there it is. We're off and running again. Kate Donnelly, Steve Williams. Oh, there's a little bit of a push there as well from Josh Mickelmore. Looked like it was on the back of the 66 of Philip Powell. So Chris Purnell right up on the back of Steve Williams as well, looking to go with him around the outside. In fact, he's pulled down. They've got 3 wide here. He's challenging for the lead. Trying to make hay while the sun shines.
A big brave move there from Chris, but it was one that he needed to make happen because those guys on those older tyres are going to be struggling for speed. You can just see how much more speed they've got. I think it caught Josh Mickelmore out a little bit on their acceleration because they just couldn't get their foot down on the pedal quick enough, and that really caught them out. Chris Pennell just had the perfect starting spot. Behind him is Ruben Phelps with Stephen Williams, so those guys have all made their way through that little bit of carnage. Stephen Williams, of course, didn't stop, but he's managed to get the car up into a relatively good spot at the moment, and he's got up to speed, which is important. So he'll try and stay there a little bit, but this could be Phelps and Purnell's chance to run away from this, the rest of the group here.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said before, in the caution period, really important for them to minimise the amount of time they spend behind those cars with the warmer tyres, and managing to get it done extraordinarily quickly. So a good chance for them to make a break for it, and that's exactly what they are doing. Steve Williams, Matty Raymond in behind them, as well as Reece May. A little bit of shuffling going on in that pack, just trying to keep itself attached to this leading pair.
And you can see there Steve Williams just going up high. He's sort of stuck on the high line at the moment, which isn't the worst place to be. He's got a lot of experience on his shoulders, so he should keep that car relatively steady. But with the tyre wear he's got, he is going to be a bit slower. So those cars on the inside will gain pace on him. Josh Mickelmore, though, he's going to just start dropping back a little bit just as he gets caught up behind those guys.
Yeah, Reece May there, just getting him a little bit loose, probably giving Josh Mickelmore a small amount of concern as he pushed right up into the right-hand front corner of Mickelmore's car, just managing to avoid him there, however, and keep things going. So 31 of Mickelmore right up behind Steve Williams, now just ducking down into that low line. 40 of Kate Donnelly, some boys right behind him.
Yeah, they're doing a good job, but up the front, Ruben Phelps is doing a fantastic job in 06. He's just gone down underneath Chris Purnell. He's got the inside line. He's holding onto a tie. He's going to get a good run off here onto the start-finish straight. He should be able to just about slide in front of Chris Purnell. As a little bit further back, Daniel Stevens having a huge moment across the tri-oval section, but managed to keep the car going in the right direction, but has burnt off those tyres a bit and is struggling through the corners.
And Reece May there moving up as well. Matty Raymond doing a good job. Josh Mickelmore benefiting from this. So plenty of shuffle happening at the front here. As Purnell just lost a little bit of momentum, and Reece May, Mickelmore and Matty Raymond taking as much advantage as they can to jump back onto the back of the pack. Just sounded like there was a huge incident in the background there. Could still hear it going on. I'll just try and bring that up on the screen for you. And there it is, Philip Howe dancing on top of the 39 of Scott Griffiths. And then there was a whole heap of other action in the background. Aidan Schultz, unfortunately, involved in that as well, as the cars tried to shuffle their way through. And the 231 car as well of Paul Jackson getting involved in that. So it sounded absolutely diabolical across the radio. But looks like we've got away with just 3 cars involved in that one.
There was 3 main cars, but quite a few cars down the back towards the end of the pack as well, getting caught up in that. A few people getting caught under brakes there. Looks like Philip Howe got caught low a little bit, going up on the inside of the number 3 there as well, and that's what caused that accident. Big incident there, and that's going to cause a few people to jump into the pit lane, I think.
That car of Philip Howe's looking very, very second-hand indeed, puffing its way down pit lane. Paul Jackson there doing his best crab interpretation as well. So he has got an awfully large repair bill to perform on that car.
Yeah, the car's aero doesn't work well when it's crabbing like that. It does not like it at all. But a big shame there for Jackson. He was having a good run tonight. And it unfortunately, this, as is the nature of racing and oval racing, is it only takes a split moment, and you're not always the person at fault, but it can easily end up taking you out for the night, unfortunately.
So we've got a number of cars that didn't stop on the first caution period jumping through pit lane now, some going through for their second time. So reshuffle here has meant that Ruben Phelps, Chris Purnell have stayed out. In fact, a majority of that lead pack staying out on track. It has meant that through the shuffle that Luke Trahair has moved up into third. So they will try and do their best to move up, I imagine, with Ruben Phelps out on his own at the front. And then we do have Gary Wellman in fourth, Tony Gagliardi in fifth, Aaron Dillon in sixth, Billy Hickey in seventh, up a whopping 23 places, having stopped as well. So he so far is one of the bigger movers of the night. Tristan Koch in eighth. We've got Cam James in ninth, and rounding out our top 10, Todd Maxfield, another big mover, 24 spots up from his qualifying position.
Yeah, so all the way down to 14th, they stayed out for this latest caution. Everybody from 15th down has come into the pit lane to get some new tyres, some more fuel, get a bit of repair done, things like that to the car. So a lot of people coming in just to get a few bits and bobs fixed on the car and just get some more fuel and tyres on the vehicle as well. Of course, you have unlimited tyres for this race, so no problems about tyre changing. Of course, in the truck series, in the Cup series, you only have 4 sets of tyres, so you have to be a bit careful about that. But in the trucks, having unlimited tyres, well worth jumping in when they've done around about 15 laps or so, because they do start to get a little bit dicey on this track as they go on.
So we're having a look out the back of the Activity Hub Barley sponsored car of our race leader Ruben Phelps. Activity Hub Barley, a big sponsor of a couple of the cars here, obviously main sponsor of the team. Give them a little bit of coverage if you're heading off to Bali at some stage in the future. I'm sure we'll head off back on overseas holidays again. They can help you out with information about all things Bali that are exciting to do when you get over there. So certainly when that business reopens, do give them a call if you would like some information about what to get up to when you are on your holiday in Bali.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look. I think we might have Paul Jackson in the infield care centre.
He's still sitting in pit lane. Certainly be getting a medical assessment done after that one, riding on top of another car.
Yes, it's never fun, and it's very easy to get to hurt yourself in those positions. You know, even in sim racing, we sort of do joke about it, but the steering wheels, everything, there's so much torque on the wheels. You know, it's very easy to hurt a thumb or a finger if you get caught up in the wheel when it spins around, and it is quite violent when you get thrown around in the cars like that. I was also doing a little bit of an experiment with the old VR this week. A friend let me borrow his unit, and I must say, when you crash a car, it does make you feel quite sick as well.
Yes, I can certainly attest to that. It's a rite of passage when you get VR for someone to take you out so that you flip. And I must admit, I don't get too much of an issue with the VR other than when I race stadium trucks, in which case I struggle a little bit with the VR there. But yeah, you can certainly the wheels, particularly with the direct drive wheels, actually come with an emergency stop button. So that you can turn them off if you have a big hit to save them from going off. But there's been plenty of stories of people breaking wrists and things like that when they crash the car and hang on to it. So as we are about to get going again, the safety truck has pulled off, pace truck's pulled off down into the infield, and it will be Ruben Phelps who's going to lead us away. We'll keep a look at the view here. You can see the truck's banking up as we head across the start-finish line, and it is Chris Purnell, Ruben Phelps at the front of the train. Luke Trahair just behind him with Tony Gagliardi, Gary Wellman in the 2 entries behind that. Purnell trying to take the lead away, but Ruben Phelps has had a cracking start here as well. So not going quite as easy as it did on the first restart. Purnell will slot down into the lower lane here now.
He's going to try and get underneath Ruben Phelps, who was just positioning the car perfectly there through the corners, just mid-corner, just unable to, Chris Purnell unable to get there, but Purnell's gone down the inside this time, so Phelps has got the outside line. Sometimes can be a bit quicker on the exit, but depends how well the car is handling. Looks like he's got a little bit better drive off, but Purnell is going to get better entry through the mid-corner here, and this is the one where you can carry a bit more speed off when you're lower, so expect to see Purnell get through here. Phelps is going to drop down in front of Gary Wellman there, takes a very, very aggressive move down on Wellman there. Good positioning of the car, nice knowledge of the positioning, and he's going to try and get under Purnell this time.
Jump around through the cameras here to bring you the best view of what's going on there. Gary Wellman, as I said, doing a great job trying to put himself in between these two cars and able to jump in front of it and having a look at the whole thing. Right now on the front corner of Ruben Phelps' car, things have settled down a little bit here. The gap generating there. Luke Traher falling back into the pack with Tony Gagliardi. We've got Todd Maxfield as well as Gary Wellman in that pack.
Yeah, quite a few cars just having a big
Boys, Traher!
Sorry, Traher there, just getting up into the wall. Oh, it's going to be some big accidents behind there as well. As he goes, I think he went into his teammate of Michael Skurlock actually. So Traher got into Skurlock, he's gone up into the wall and sort of then bounced, Skurlock's gone up into him. Not a clean night for Skurlock there. That was a devastating moment for the Crank Esports team.
Yeah, and just a little bit of damage there on the front left-hand corner of Traher's car. So just got a little bit loose there, and that ended up making him try to grab hold of it as best he could and end up down into, as you say, Michael Skurlock just trying to grab hold of that one and keep it on the track.
He does, but up the front, Ruben Phelps has taken the lead again. He's going to be glad that stayed green there, because that's given the opportunity to take the lead from Chris Purnell, who I imagine got a ear full of teammates saying, oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's given Phelps the chance to get in front of him. At the back, you've got Gary Wellman, Aaron Dillon, Tony Gagliardi, Jake Maloney. Those guys are all battling with Bill Hickey there as well, just trying to sneak up on the back of Maloney. But it's a big battle from third to sixth as well. Those guys are really racing hard.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll jump on with Aaron Dillon here just to keep an eye on this battle for positions 3 through 6, my apologies. So definitely plenty going on throughout the field. Just having a look a little bit further down just to see what else is going on. As everyone's racing. 45 there of Gary Wellman is closed right up again on the back of Chris Purnell. So he's going to be trying to challenge Purnell for that position. He wants to go with him, in fact, as he ducks down onto the low line, which has left the car of Ruben Phelps a little bit out to dry, as Phelps manages to slot back in though.
Yeah, all important to slot back in on that front straight section, because that's where you start to lose time. If you have to take a tighter line, sometimes through that last corner it can throw you off a little bit. On the outside though, you will lose a little bit more speed. The tighter line does have a little bit better exit usually. This first corner is the problematic one, is you do want a little bit of a wider line to go through there, because if you go too tight, you hit the bumps and you can lose a lot of speed. Once you get onto the back straight here, if you can get the car slotted back into the far section, it can work out well for you. Ruben Phelps jumping down in front of Gary Wellman again, just blocking the nose off there. Ruben Phelps to keep that position, and he's going to get a bit of a toe now, but if he goes for a position too early here, it could affect him for the rest of the lap.
And Jake Maloney there, the benefactor, and you can see him now, he's down on the inside line of Ruben Phelps. He's going to try and make this stick. He can hold on just a little bit longer, which he does, and he's going to get that move done there. That's going to make Ruben Phelps move back down into third. Gary Wellman closing back up on the back of him. So Jake Maloney with a little bit of pace at the moment.
Yeah, Maloney got a big help there from Chris Purnell, as well as Purnell's just in position with his car as he's running out front. Jake Maloney just saw there Purnell was going to put the car, he's slotted it perfectly. He's got a good draft this time off the corner as well, so come through turns 1 and 2. So he should have that inside line as we come back onto the back section. And we should see Jake Maloney taking the lead here.
We do indeed. And Ruben Phelps right up on the back of Purnell. Gary Wellman not far behind. Aaron Dillon not far behind him. So this lead pack here fighting very hard as Purnell tries to get down underneath the 29 of Jake Maloney. Just gets the door closed a little bit there. Not quite able to make that happen. Exposes himself as well in the right sense to Ruben Phelps, who is going to get a good run on him here and get down the inside. So Purnell will drop another position back down into third. And in fact, Gary Wellman as well, trying to go through there. Good move from Purnell. He's managed to switch it and get right in between the two. I thought he was going to lose that position to Wellman.
Yeah, Purnell just really saved himself a spot there, but also managed to save himself falling back too much. They got back into the little bit of draft that Ruben Phelps was creating, got some speed back there, and Ruben Phelps actually had to cover Chris Purnell off because he was starting to get a run on Jake Maloney. So with that move, Chris Purnell sort of denied Ruben Phelps the opportunity to get the run on Jake Maloney and also saved himself that spot there. So crafty veteran move from Purnell, but good driving from Ruben Phelps to keep him behind him as well. Quite a popular driver tonight in the old chat area as well, Ruben Phelps, getting a lot of support out there, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 41 laps in now. Everyone's fueled for a little while here, so drivers probably happy to have some strong green flag running for a little bit yet. It's just too early for them to fuel up to the end now. I'm not sure many of them will want to anyway, so just keep an eye on that if we do get another caution period. See who is going to do what.
Yeah, if we see drivers coming in, if we get a caution around about lap 60-ish, that will be the sort of Goldilocks spot, I think, for drivers to come in to sort of stay out till the end. But of course, if we get another caution and all the pack come in and get fresh tyres, that will change the effect of this race as well, because those fresh tyres we've seen do have a big advantage on pace. A couple of drivers that are working their way up there that did stop a little bit earlier. So we've got a few guys out there like Ruben Phelps, Chris Purnell, Gary Wellman, who stayed out that last caution. But people like Josh Mickle and Jake Maloney, they did stop. So they've got the ability to go a little bit longer in this race, and they're also on slightly fresher tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake Maloney stopping on lap 25, as you said. Phelps and Purnell 11 laps prior to that. So just stopping on lap 14. A couple of lapped cars there as well. Just moving to the high line, I think that might be Luke Trahair, who is up there just trying to stay out of the way.
Michael Scarlett's up there at the moment. Looks a little bit further around the track as it stands, but Michael Scarlett having an adventurous night. Not having the luck he did at Daytona in the Cup, unfortunately, but Jake Maloney, as we've got a little bit of contact mid-pack there, we're going to get a big crash here. Riley Curtis getting involved in that. Will the caution come out, though?
Looks like we're going to escape without it, and surprisingly so there. Some of the guys managing to make their way down onto the oval. Oh, he's had a big slide again there as well. 4-8 just getting caught. Kai Sloggett just getting caught on the transition between the infield and up onto the banking. Just popping the car a little bit there. Very lucky to catch that.
Yeah, very surprised we didn't get a caution there, because that was luckily nobody stopped out on the track and they managed to keep it going, so no caution flag flying. Real shame for Riley Curtis there, getting caught a little bit by, I think it was Billy Hickey behind him, just getting tapped a little bit on the rear, and that just unsettled the car, and then all of a sudden he's gone around. Good save there, but we'll have some damage on that vehicle now, and it's going to probably struggle a little bit, especially on the right front of that car.
Ruben Phelps, in all that, Ruben Phelps dropping out of second down into fourth position. So it is Maloney, Purnell and Micklemore now as your front three drivers. There's still plenty of time to go. 53 laps remaining. So just keep an eye.
Sorry, ones to watch there, I think, are going to be Cade Donnelly and Dwayne Cruz. They're coming up pretty fast and hard on these front runners. So you can see they're starting to catch on Ruben Phelps. And they've got those 10-lap fuel tyres, which are helping them a little bit at the moment. And they seem to be setting some good pace out there as well. So expect to see those guys starting to creep their way up there and start to edge their way ever closer. But at the moment, Jake Maloney has pulled out a good gap at the lead of almost just under 3/4 of a second. So, he's got a good gap at the front at the moment, so he wants this to remain green for a while.
And of course, remembering that, as we just said, Purnell on much older tyres, so Josh Micklemore will be trying to make way his way past Chris Purnell. As we just get notification, Nigel Patton has had an incident. He's jumped into pit lane and no caution caused.
No, unfortunate for Nigel there, who had a good qualifying session in midfield, but unfortunately it's not worked out for him in this race.
He's just ended up down on the infield there, so not good for him. So we'll head back.
Yeah, unsure what happened there for Nigel. It could be some underlying engine damage, things like that, of course. They can really affect the car. You know, you have a big hit early in the race and it can affect cooling. You run around and then all of a sudden the car goes boom on you from nowhere, and you sort of go, well, how did that happen? And it can be very frustrating. But Chris Purnell has got a fast-charging Josh Mickelmore back on his on behind him at the moment. A little bit further back, there's a good race going on between Dwayne Priest and Gary Wellman. Dwayne Priest is starting to pull away a little bit, as Kay Donald as well. So Kay Donald and Dwayne Priest are pulling away, sorry. Those two are starting to battle, but Kay Donald is starting to catch up as well now. Kay Donald, of course, having that great run in the Daytona race.
Absolutely. So it's on board with Priest now, just to keep an eye on this battle. Keep one eye on the lead pack as well, as we see how this one unfolds with Donovan Priest fighting it out. Just behind them is Wellman Gagliardi, so there's another pack coming. Curtis just jumps into pit lane.
Yeah, I think Riley Curtis there just bringing it in because he's struggling with the car a little bit. Going to try and see if his race remains green. Coming in now could possibly give him a little bit of a jump, so he might change all the tyres, get some fuel in the car, and then see if he can make it to the end. Of course, it's half distance right now, so rolling the dice a little bit possibly. But being now that everybody's starting to spread out a little bit, you don't really have those cars running too wide with each other anymore. You might see some long green flag stages now.
Josh Mickelmore won't be too happy about this. He's lost a little bit of ground to Purnell. With those fresher tyres, he would have wanted to be taking advantage where he could. I can tell you the pace of Purnell is matching that of our leader, Jake Maloney, on old tyres, so he's managing quite well in the Crank Esports 920 car. Of course, some of those laps were done under caution, so not quite as old, but still an older set of tyres. So Mickelmore will probably be wondering when he can put a move on Purnell.
Yeah, one of the big things that can happen is they can plateau a little bit. You can sort of get to a stage. Where the tyres start to ease off a little bit. Just jumping back a little bit, got Kay Donald on Ruben Phelps now. Donald is making a good run up the field. Worked his way from 10th on the grid now up to 5th place. Ruben Phelps from 11th to 4th, of course. They're battling away for 5th place right now. But of course, Kay Donald, almost slightly fresher tyres, is having a little bit of a better run at the moment. Seems to have some of the best pace out there from all of the top runners as well. So he's doing a really good job of getting that car through. But I think what we're seeing up the front now is Jake Maloney might have just been pushing a little bit too hard, a bit too early, and just started eating away a little bit of those tyres, which has given Chris Purnell the chance to catch back up to him.
Cagdon does get that job done. Yeah, as you say, Purnell just addressing that gap a little bit. He's taken Mickelmore with him. So, once again, things heating up at the front of the field.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at a good battle for the lead when these guys start closing up to each other. One of the other things, of course, you might be seeing Josh Mickelmore is just following Chris Purnell for such a time as well. You do start to wear the tyres a little bit when you're behind a car in front of you, because, as I say, you lose a little bit of that front aero. The car squiggles a little bit more. You lose a little bit of grip here and there, and that can scrub off the tyres a little bit quicker than you were expecting. So I would say that Josh Mickelmore's just hanging back a little bit. He's just not pushing the car too hard, too fast at the moment, just saving those tyres. And I expect to see him pounce when Chris Purnell and Jake Maloney start battling.
So much for the like there, Mandy. I hope you're enjoying the coverage. Ruben currently running in 5th. We're just seeing Purnell here get down on the inside, just having a look. But he has closed right back up on the back of Jake Maloney. And we're trying to get this done. There's some lap traffic coming our way as well, as Maloney there just gets a little higher than Purnell. Stick with this one. Better run out of that corner from Maloney, so it's just stretched the gap a little bit there, as you can see. So, playing this game of tug of war.
Yeah, you're going to see Jake Maloney. He's going to he might actually get a little bit of bonus from these lap cars if he can get the toe just at the right time. I think Aiden Schultz is the first one there. But they're going to go side by side. Chris Purnell's going to use it to his advantage, actually going down the inside as they go 3 wide there. Jake Maloney's on the outside, Chris Purnell on the inside. Maloney's going to get a good run, but he's got cars to get through as he gets past Michael Scarlett there. Maloney's managed to keep in front for the moment, but Chris Purnell's going to get a much better run through this corner. He should get a better run off the corner, a bit better speed as well.
Purnell trying to use that lap traffic to his advantage. We actually saw this happen to him last week, where 2 teammates used the lap traffic to box him in and effectively make a double pass. So he's a very experienced campaigner, able to try and use that lap traffic to his advantage. Of course, no requirement for them to move out of the way. There's no blue flags in oval track racing, so it's a legitimate strategy, and it so far has worked. Albeit Maloney has done extremely well to keep pace here and still in the lead.
Chris Purnell just catching the apron a tiny bit there. That's going to give Jake Maloney a little bit of speed across the tri-oval section. He kept the car perfectly straight though and just boxed it off, so he managed to keep that perfectly positioned. That could have been an absolute disaster though for Purnell. He turned that into a moment of just losing a little bit of pace, and that's going to give Jake Maloney a chance to get back in front of him. But good save from Purnell there. It was almost a big moment.
Josh Mickelmore just managing his time behind these two, particularly getting through that lap traffic. Makes it a little bit more perilous, I should say. Face more of a peril, I should say, than if it's not there when they're dicing for the lead.
But as these guys battle up front, they're costing each other time, which is exactly what Josh Mickelmore was banking on. The other guy that was really hoping for this to happen was Kay Donald. Back there in 4th position, he's really catching up to the front guys. He's made a good couple of seconds on the leaders. He's only 1.6 of a second off the leader right now. So he is really caught up to that pack. He's going to start getting a little bit of a draft from Josh Mickelmore shortly, so he'll start getting a little bit of a pull from him, and that's going to help him catch on the front runners.
Back on board with Purnell. This gives us a really good idea of how the 2 cars position one another, trying to get the pass done.
Yeah, it's like playing chess at a couple of hundred kilometers per hour. You know, almost going over 280 kilometers per hour, and trying to make these chess moves. And it is very, very difficult. It's all about planning the attack. Sometimes you're planning at least 2 laps in advance because you want to try and position that car in front of you on the wrong spot of the track. Get them up a little bit higher, maybe get them to have a little bit of marbles on their tyres, and that's going to slow them down for the next couple of laps for you, and then you can make your opportunity, make your pass. So at the moment, Chris Purnell's just pressuring Jake Maloney, just trying to make him into a bit of a mistake, just try and force him to be just offline a little bit, and then make that move on the next lap. And you can see Chris Purnell is really, really trying to get that move made. A little bit further back, Josh Mickelmore now has Kay Donnelly right on the back of his car. So those two are battling hard as well.
Yeah, so you can just see that right in the distance as we look out the back of Jake Maloney's car. Just see Mickelmore and Donnelly. In fact, Donnelly has made the move past the car of Josh Mickelmore as Mickelmore actually ducks into pit lane. So he has decided it is time, having run those tyres for an extended period, to get his service done. He will be able to run to the end if it is green to the end from here.
Yeah. These guys, Chris Purnell and the like, are starting to get to the point where their fuel is starting to get critical. They did have those laps under the pace car. So it looks like Chris Purnell's pitting in as well. So about 52 laps on the fuel tonight, it seems. So those guys are coming in at just making it for the very last moment. They'll have to change tyres, pop on some fuel. Of course, what this does now for Jake Maloney, Kay Donald, Tony Gagliardi and Jason Nicholas, Stephen Williams, Gary Wellman, gives them a little bit of an opportunity. If they can stay out a little bit longer, they can possibly, if the caution comes out, that will really pay off for them. So they're going to try and keep out a little bit longer just in case that caution comes out. Of course, when you're coming back onto the track, you've got cold tyres. It's very easy to make a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. So just there was an incident just before Scott Butler just had a small episode. Just missed that one. He's down on the apron as well by the time we've caught that one. Very slowly. So perhaps a expired motor there. And he's jumped out of that one and taken it back to pit lane.
Yeah, it looks like a few people are struggling out there tonight with bits of damage, and it is a tough track here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's not the easiest track. It's one of those circuits that can absolutely punish you if you make a mistake. And as I say, it's very deceptive as well. You sort of look at it like almost a cookie cutter track, but the sort of normal generic oval track that you get from most speedways in oval racing. But it's one of those tracks where you just have to lift off a little bit and it can catch you out. As Kay Donald's pitting in, I think, this time round.
Yeah, slowing down. Moving on to the entry to pit road. So he is on his way in. Steve Williams as well on his way in. Finlay, Priest all jumping in. So Matty Raymond jumps up the list and he is now running in third. So Jake Maloney, Jason Nicholas, and we've got Matty Raymond running as our top three, all pitted on lap 25, so they have a little bit of time yet to run.
And just jumping back to the cars that just a lap down that have pitted, Josh Micklemore is in front of Chris Purnell at the moment. So Micklemore has managed to make this work very well and keep in front of Chris Purnell. So he managed to jump Purnell in those pit stops and is the effective leader of the race. Albeit when everybody makes their pit stops if there's no caution. So it depends how it goes for him. But we'll also see here that these guys will get a bit of an undercut situation as Chris Purnell goes down to the inside to try and make the move on Josh Micklemore, and he's going to go right to the inside there, really touching the apron of that track, really playing with fire as he does. But Purnell managing to hold the car, and Micklemore, a great battle between these two, multiple winners of the series. But these guys are going to start gaining on the leaders. They are going to be getting a bit of the undercut situation as they set times. They're around about 2 seconds a lap faster than the leaders at the moment.
As Nicholas and Taylor jump into pit lane as well. So this ride that we're on right now, as I said, is between the effective race leaders, Micklemore and Purnell. Jake Maloney's ducked into pit lane as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say Maloney has come into the pit lane, and that's left Tristan Koch and Matthew Raymond out there to take over first and second. They're going to keep out for a little bit longer, I imagine. Got a little bit of fuel left on board them. Tristan Koch has done a very long stint by the looks of things. From my screens, he's done about 58 laps. So quite a few laps for Tristan Koch.
So he will be definitely due. Jake Maloney on his way out. So Chris Purnell, now effective race leader. Matty Raymond ducks into pit lane. Tristan Koch as well jumps into pit lane. So this is the lead of our race. Lap 73 between Chris Purnell and Josh Micklemore.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to see how much time Jake Maloney will have lost just because of the undercut situation. He's going to fall down the positions a little bit here. Not going to be too bad because they did have a little bit of a gap towards him, but they're going to start getting better runs now as they're on fresher tyres. They're going to have their fresher tyres towards the end of this race now.
And a little bit further back, this man has recovered. Ruben Phelps back up into third after the shuffle of the pit stops. He pitted on the same lap as Purnell, lap 67. So he is running there. He has got Jake Maloney just just a second or so further back down the road. Steve Williams behind him, Tony Gagliardi as well, just battling away as we jump on board and have a look at this fight here. 45 Gary Wellman, who was pacey towards the end of his stint, is involved in this pack, as well as Jake Maloney goes fastest, a 30.97 fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, now Maloney has to be careful not to use up those tyres too quickly. Of course, he's going to have those nice fresh tyres on the car. Best lap of the race, best lap of, as you say, he's really got some speed out there, but he's got to be careful not to push it too hard. Of course, the other thing for Maloney is he wouldn't have had to take as much fuel, so he wouldn't have had to stay stationary for long in the pit lane. So that could have given him a little bit of a better chance to come out there. I didn't actually see whether he took tyres or all the tyres or not. He may have just taken one side, which could have given him a little bit of an advantage to come out on. And that is a definite option here. Sometimes if your left or right side's running a little bit low, then you just change that one set of tyres rather than all four and save you a lot of time. And if you're not taking as much fuel as the rest of the guys, it can really help you out later in the race.
He's definitely got the pace going, because he's making light work of Ruben Phelps and moves himself back up into third position. So he is on the charge. Phelps tucks in right behind him, as you would expect. So 7.5 seconds behind our race leading pack of Purnell and Micklemore, who are still nose and tail together in this one. 23 to go. It's been a good extended green flag period. Done our final stops, we're ready to go.
They've had some good green flag running right now. So Jake Maloney is 7.5 seconds off the front runners now, and that's the time he lost by the undercut there. He did take all four tyres, so I just went back and checked that pit stop. So Maloney has definitely got some pace out there. Now he just has to be careful not to chew through those tyres too quickly, because then Ruben Phelps could be in with a chance of getting that position from him.
We've got a 6-lap difference between the Purnell Micklemore pit stops and that of Jake Maloney, so a little bit of letting the race come to him, as well as the tyres on these two will wear, particularly as they're battling away as well. So to be in for another close finish to this one, ANZCAR Truck Series.
Yeah, we've been witness to a lot of those recently, which is always nice to have, especially when it's especially if it happens under green flag racing. It's what you want to have happen. But there's been some great racing out here tonight. Some unfortunate incidents between a couple of drivers, but there's been some good passing positions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things I thought coming into broadcasting the trucks. I actually thought they'd be really loose, difficult to drive, and a challenge, and perhaps they are. But the quality of the racing is and driving standard is really high, which means we get plenty of green flag racing and some good battles.
Yeah, that's it. The trucks can be very difficult to drive just because of the lack of weight over the rear axle. Sometimes they've got a lot less downforce than the Cup, for instance, and they've got quite powerful engines as well, of course. So they're not an easy vehicle to drive. But once you get into the swing of things, once you get settled in, once you start getting your laps set and you feel like you're comfortable, they can be quite not easy to drive, but they can be relatively easy to settle into. When you're running consistent laps in them, you do start to feel a little bit more at home, and they do come to you a little bit more. But they can be challenging, especially at the start of a stint and the end of a stint. When tyres are cold and when they're fresh, they can really throw you off quite easily.
So just switching over to intervals on the ticker there. Sorry, Ed, I didn't see that tonight. So to those watching who just got the best lap, we apologise for that.
Always the tricky part of broadcasting is keeping an eye on all of those little bits and aspects, as well as the actual race itself sometimes. At the moment, Jake Maloney is making pace on the leaders. He's brought the gap down to 5.5 seconds now. If you remember, when he came out of the pit stops and everything started settling out, it was 7.5 seconds. So Maloney is absolutely flying at the moment. Just set the fastest lap of the fastest lap of this, the fastest lap of this group of cars. So he's definitely flying out there and has got the pace over the rest of the field. It's whether he can catch them in time. So we've only got 15 laps to go, well, 16 laps to go.
You know, he, as you say, it's about half a second quicker than our leaders last time around, and as equally we said, fastest lap of the race after he came out of the pits. If he can maintain that sort of half a second margin, he will well and truly address the gap very close to the end of this race. So don't go anywhere. It's going to be a very, very tight finish if Jake Maloney can continue with this pace.
I think Josh Mickelmore might have burnt his tyres off a little bit because he's really struggling now. He's dropped right off pace-wise and he's falling back at a vast rate of knots. He's lost about half a second in the last couple of laps. Every lap he's losing about half a second, and this is really giving Maloney the chance to catch up to Burnell.
Yeah, even there, just at 32.6 for Josh Mickelmore, 31.8 for Maloney, and a low 32.17 for Burnell, so definitely dropped off the pace a little bit there. Perhaps not taking tyres at that last stop.
Yeah, I think they would definitely have taken the tyres, but I think they've just started hitting that plateau, hitting that section where they've just dropped off a little bit too much for him. And he's just going to have to scrub them a little bit, just take a couple of laps just to get back into the feeling of the car. Like I was saying before, it's almost like you get into the groove of racing this car. Sometimes your tyres will go through a bad section. It's almost like when they blister up, of course. You can scrub that off quite quickly. It does take a couple of laps, so for that
It's almost an absolutely massive accident there with Luke Purnell. My apologies, with Luke Trahir. Just having someone swerve right down in front of him. I didn't actually catch who that was. Did it well to avoid causing an incident there and potentially taking Mickelmore out in the process.
Yeah, that was a big, big moment there as the 49 came down on him. Just a big moment. Just lost a lot of speed, and Trahir just doing a very good job to avoid that incident.
So that gap now down to 1.6 seconds between Maloney and Mickelmore, so he is coming.
He is, and you can start to see now the cars around the leaders. You can see a few of the cars that are a lap down and are not in their sort of almost their right positions. They're much faster than the leaders at the moment, and those are the guys that pitted a little bit later on. So they've got those fresher tyres, and they're just starting to make pace on the leaders now. That early stop for Josh Mickelmore and Chris Purnell is starting to affect them now. As you can see, just behind Josh Mickelmore, Jake Maloney is starting to get into touching distance now. He's only 2.8 seconds off the lead. So he's right towards the back of Josh Mickelmore. He's got a couple of laps cars between him, but that's going to give him a chance to sort of swing around and get a little bit of drag off the corner maybe. So he could be able to launch himself around, but he's got to get through these cars as well.
And, definitely worthwhile mentioning at this point in time that Jake Maloney is 32 places up on his qualifying effort. So qualified 35th and is now running third with a very, very strong chance of second and potentially a challenge for the win with 10 laps to go.
Yeah, he's one of those drivers that just didn't qualify tonight. He didn't set a time out there, just deciding to start from the back of the grid. And it really has paid off so far for Maloney. I've got to say, he's worked his way through the field nicely, avoided the incidents when they've happened, and is just working his way up there to the front. So great job from Jake Maloney tonight. Really good driving we're seeing out there. Nice to see him on form.
He's just going through the middle of a couple of the slower cars or lap traffic, and now he has a clear run between himself and the back of Josh Mickelmore.
And you've got to say, with what we've seen from the tyres and the pace difference between these cars, it might be relatively easy to get up to the back of Mickelmore, but catching is one thing and passing is definitely another. Passing is not always the easiest thing to do.
You can see that now on the same shot. Gap has now decreased to half a second. He is in the zone.
Yeah, he's really catching well on these guys and putting the pressure on as well. And that's one of the other things that you have to be able to control at the front of the race, is the pressure put on you from a charging car behind you. When you know they've got the better tyres, when you know they've got the pace on you, it can be a little bit intimidating sometimes. You sort of have to just put your head down and just concentrate.
It's dropped into the chat and said that a caution with 5 to go could make the race interesting.
Unfortunately, I'm up here in the booth tonight, so I don't think that will happen.
Most very, very amusing, but been fancy in seeing this one run its way to the end, particularly if Jake Maloney can catch up onto the back of Chris Purnell. 2.5 seconds adrift at the moment. See him now right up behind Josh Mickelmore and Mitch Motorsport car in front there. Struggling a little bit for grip. Just see it there through the corner.
Yeah, you can just see mid-corner there, Josh Mickelmore just having to really ease off and just dance on the throttle a little bit, because he was just struggling with the pace of that car, just not quite able to get the car back on the power, not quite able to get the grip on the back wheels to put the acceleration down. And Jake Riney's just able to get the adhesion working for him and get a better run off the corner. So he's definitely got that little bit of pace, but Josh Mickelmore is no slouch, and he's just going to position that car in an awkward spot for Maloney, just to try and make him have to run at an awkward position on the track. So he's not going to make it easy for him, for sure.
Take a higher line there.
And this is where those fresher tyres are going to pay off, because he's going to be able to take that higher line and get a launch off the corner. As the tyres are going to grip a little bit better, he's going to be able to jump down in front of Josh Mickelmore now, get the position he wants on track. Now he has to chase down Chris Purnell with only 3.5 laps remaining. He's got to make up almost 2.5 seconds. Will he be able to do it? That's the big question.
It's going to be a challenge.
It's not going to be easy for him, for sure. A little bit further back, there's some good battling between Ruben Phelps and Stephen Williams. They're getting very close to each other as well, but it's all eyes at the front at the moment, because Josh Mickelmore is trying to hold on to the back of Jake Maloney the best he can as well. If he can keep there and get a good slingshot off, he might be able to get a good slingshot, but I don't think his tyre's going to let him.
I think he's done, unfortunately. 77 there of Ben Vickers, doing a little bit of hassle as well. Lap down Vickers, but certainly again on fresher tyres with a later stop. So 2 laps to go. Probably going to think that this man will get it done. At this point in time, 2.5 seconds, a big gap to overcome.
Yeah, Chris Purnell has had a good run at the front tonight, and it's got to say good return to the series as well. Purnell, of course, taking a year off last year from the oval racing to focus on his on his main project and his main bit of money, the virtual motorsport mentor area. But he has come back strong this year, and you've got to say Crank Esports have come out quite strong as well. They've had some good finishes, some good places all race long, all season long. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, with the win at Daytona as well. We just had news from Riley Curtis. He's sent us a carrier pigeon from the medical centre. Said his neck is stiff and sore, but he will survive.
That is good to hear. And Riley back, we'll get him a nice massage or something like that.
Absolutely. As Chris Purnell crosses the start-finish line to take the checkered flag for Crank Esports, his maiden win for that team in this series. Jake Maloney, a fantastic drive, 33 places up and finishing in second, fast finishing in second as well. And Josh Mickelmore hanging on for third tonight and getting it done for Mitch Motorsport, so that will help his championship cause well.
Absolutely, yeah, that's going to be a big help. It's a good finish as well for Ruben Phelps there in 4th position. Another good run from Ruben Phelps. Stephen Williams in 5th, with Kay Donnelly again having another nice run this season in 6th position. Then we had Tony Going to start it now. Gagaldi in 7th place. Career best finish, if I can recall there, because a new face to the series. Gary Bowman in 8th, with Christopher Fenley in 9th, and Jason Nichols in 10th place. A good run from a lot of new faces in the field there.
Chris Purnell making sure that whatever's left of those rear tyres doesn't see the light of day.
An important tradition on oval racing, of course, to make sure there is no rear tyres left and the engine is blown.
He's going to definitely make sure that there's no rear tyres left. See how he goes with the engine. Of course, they'll join us in just a few minutes. They'll jump in and have a chat with us and go from there.
So I'll just run through the finishing order from 11th on. So we had Dwayne Priest with Matthew Raymond in 12th, Aaron Dillon with Ryan Jones in 14th, 15th was Tristan Koch with Danny G in 16th, 17th was Brody Masters with Mick Taylor in 18th, 19th was Cam James with Daniel Stevens 20th, 21st was Reese May with Kai Scoggett 22nd, 23rd was Nathan Roch with Scott Butler 24th, 25th was Luke Trahir with Igor Barkik in 26th, 27th was Todd Maxfield with Ben Vickers 28th, 29th was Jacob Shoer with Michael Scullop in 30th, 31st was Riley Curtis, Aidan Schultz 32nd, 33rd Bill Hickey, 34th Nigel Patton, Paul Jackson 35th, 36th was Scott Griffith, Philip Howe in 37th, and the last of the starters was Nicholas Walsh in 38th position.
Thank you for the rundown there. So we've got that up on the screen. I did hear that engine give up. So Chris Purnell achieving the objective of getting that done. So he'll jump in the box shortly with Jake Maloney and Josh Micklemore. And we'll ask him a few questions about the race, including with the management of those tyres. I think a really strong race tonight. Again, a couple of caution periods early on in the race, but plenty of green flag running again this week. So a credit to the drivers. A little bit of discussion in the chat about some of the fierce racing happening early on in the mid-pack. A little bit of complaining as well, but it is what it is in this series, and I think overall again tonight treated to some pretty good driving standards.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things, unfortunately, when you have such a big field as well, when you're starting with 40-odd cars, it does get a little bit tricky when you're towards the mid-pack and the end of the pack. It's very easy for accidents to happen. And, of course, a lot of these guys are relatively new to oval racing. Of course, the trucks are sort of the second stage in the feeder series, so not all of them have the same experience as others on the ovals, and sometimes that can throw you out, especially if it's your first time on, say, Las Vegas and some of the speedways. It can definitely throw you out a little bit, and it is very easy to make a mistake, unfortunately, especially if you're running 2 to 3 wide on a track like this.
We did see some of that, of course, throughout the evening, and I have dragged Chris Purnell into the booth. Chris, congratulations on what I believe is your maiden win for your new team, certainly in the Truck Series, well driven tonight.
Yeah, so Skerlock won the 500, but that's the first win for me personally, so I'm pretty ecstatic about that. I did tell you yesterday I was going to roll a 7 and get lucky, and I definitely did that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a challenging run, quite close for a majority of the race, with tyre management, as always, showing its requirement in this series.
Yeah, I knew Jake was fast and I knew Josh was fast at the start. I sort of went a little bit of a different way, trying to make sure the car was better on the long run, hoping we were going to have a long run at some point, and that sort of came off towards the end of the race when we sort of sorted out all the cautions early. So, yeah, got lucky. Had to fight me way past Joshy. That was a good battle, and same with Jake just before the pit stop. But, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a good race.
We are joined by Josh Micklemore as well. Josh, congratulations on third and a really, really solid run right throughout the night. Tyres just at the end there, just giving away?
Yeah, about the right front off a bit. But, yeah, I'm surprised I was in there at the end because all those spinning cars. Because I missed like 3 spinning cars in that run before we pitted. So the car nearly got written off twice, so I'm lucky just to be over here.
There was there were a few close calls we watched on the way through, but and a couple as well where there was no people managing to get their way through without too much damage and too many caution periods as they slid down onto the infield. So as I said, certainly a really strong run for everyone tonight, and some nice close racing as well. Just waiting for Jake to join us. So while we've got that there, Carl, you've just brought Ryan into the booth.
I just grabbed Ryan by mistake. Sorry, Ryan.
No worries, you're right. I was wondering what was going on there. I'm thinking, oh, hang on a minute, we've got someone running under an alias. So a really strong run. So I guess I'm not too sure what's happened to Jake. We've missed out on having a chat with him, but both of you running really close with him throughout the night and managing to keep it clean. So at this point, Chris, as we always would do, obviously run through your sponsors and thanks.
Obviously, I'd like to thank you guys at FGM ANZCAR for putting on the broadcast. It's always fantastic. The ANZCAR admin, the season's been incredible so far already. The amount of participation in every race has been ridiculous. It's probably been the biggest seasons that I've seen, and it just seems to grow. And the driving standards have lifted another level this year, which is awesome to see. And then also I'd like to thank iRace Designs for our paint jobs and myself for Virtual Motorsport Mentor.
Always good to give yourself a thanks as well, and obviously well driven. Josh, yourself?
Yeah, you boys for broadcasting an event for us and commentating. BK Designs sponsoring the team, and Chris for the win, mate. Well done.
Good close racing. And actually, Chris, you mentioned about driving standards. One of the things that Carl and I spoke about that we've now, mental quick arithmetic had something like over 200 plus laps of green flag racing with huge fields. So, albeit there's a little bit of bump and shove going on in the mid-pack, and some comments about that. The standard of the racing, particularly nose to tail, U3 tonight, was really, really good to see, and it makes our job very easy because there's always plenty to talk about.
Yeah, that's it. It's really impressive to watch, and everybody just keeps raising week after week.
Looking forward to seeing what the rest of the season brings, and obviously congratulations, not on your first win in ANZCAR, certainly not, but certainly this season. So well done to you guys for the race tonight. And we're off to Atlanta next week. Already into March, unbelievable. 1st of March, we're headed to Atlanta for 109 laps at Atlanta. What do we expect to see there?
Lots of slick racing. The track, it's an interesting track. Lots of bumps. The tyres wear out really quick at Atlanta, so it'll be a good race.
Looking forward to getting there next week. And of course, that's not all that we have here for ANZCAR for the week. The ARCA Development Series, in fact, sponsored by Virtual Motorsport Mentor, on tomorrow night. That one is a series, as we said, if you are looking to get into oval racing, the ARCA Development Series is exactly meant for that, to help you get in and learn from some of the best who are also running around in there. It is a limited series in terms of your I rating. I believe it's at... Has it been lifted, Carl? Did that end up happening?
I believe it is just delisting, I think it is. You just need the need Class D rating on the license to get into the ARCA series. Just really a minor sort of make sure people have run ovals before series in that respect. But it is a good way of getting into the series. Of course, send your applications to join the ANZCAR League as well, so you can see all of those series coming up. We're at Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Mile next for the ARCA series tomorrow night.
And the ANZCAR Cup Series heads to Homestead on Thursday evening. So still plenty of racing to come for ANZCAR throughout the balance of the week. And of course we will be back here next Monday evening when we head to Atlanta. Carl, thanks very much for jumping in the booth and giving me somebody to correct the mistakes that I make still in learning about this wonderful series, but certainly appreciate you jumping on the stream and giving me a hand.
You're more than welcome, Stuart.
And that for us is that as we head off into the distance for another evening, and we will catch you again. We're still a little quiet this week. Things start to ramp up for us next week as some of our other series come back online. So I'm going to enjoy the balance of the week and get practicing for the Bathurst 12 Hour, which is happening on Saturday night for us this week, where we'll be running the GT3. Jumping in the Lamborghini, in fact, to run that at the Bathurst 12 Hours, so to everyone running in that, good luck, and we will see you out on track. Otherwise, we will see you next Monday evening. Thank you very much for your company.